are open, it's hot in here. And this is an important point. Normally I would do this in cooler weather. If your cymbal gets hot, walk away from it. You can feel it. You'll feel whether it's getting hot. You don't want it to get hot because that will change the metal. And when it's hot out already, then things are getting warm, as well as the drill. I'll start to feel the motor get kind of warm. But in this second video, I thought, let me give you a couple of tips here. Number one, if your bit starts to get dull, just go back to your grinding wheel and just, sharpen it up. And you always want to keep your bit tilted so that back end of the bit is getting taken away, but not the front edge, because that will dull it up. So you want that back edge. You can see how I have this tilted. If I put it this way, you can see the cut back. See how it's cut back? So when you put it on your grinding stone, you want to make sure you don't get that face edge. You just want the back edge. That's on keeping because your bits will get dull. I mean, bronze is bronze after all. It's not super hard, but it's not butter either. All right, so I wanted to show you because this is a wild cymbal, right? The first video I started doing this thing is wild. So I thought this is a good tip. If you should have a wild cymbal, you can do it with any cymbal really. I may do a video on that next one I'm going to do. But any cymbal that you have that's really cattywampus, start with your bit on the cymbal. Don't drop it down. Just put the bit on the cymbal and then start, and you'll have more control. All right, so that's one thing. Just start with because otherwise this thing's going crazy. You try to drop a bit on there, it's a little more difficult. The other thing to use, so you're not always using the same side of the bit, I can go this way or I can go this way. Let's start with it on there. You can also change the lathing pattern. One of the most interesting lathing patterns I think in the industry are UFIP cymbals. They have all kinds of different lathing patterns on their cymbals. Their class cymbals are really cool looking because they use different bits, and some of that stuff looked like somebody was half awake when they did it. I call that my basket weave. And the basket weave is when you're not just going straight down the cymbal. You just do this back and forth, and the lathing lines start going all over the place. And when you're done, it's like, oh, that was cool. I call that my basket weave. But anyway, that's just a couple of tips, all right? I'm going to keep working on this, but I wanted to do that. I wanted to show you that. So you're not always stuck going one way and constantly wearing out just one edge of your bit. You can turn the bit and go backwards. And you can see the stuff that comes off. You're trying to you want the nice long thready stuff. Something else will begin to happen too with a cymbal like this if you don't have a backer on it. All right, that's why when you put it up against the vertical cymbal lathes, it's nice and tight all the way around the circumference of the cymbal, so they can go into it. With a situation like this, you get what is called chattering, and that's like a da 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 da. And you can see that, and I don't mind it. As far as the look, I don't mind it. It doesn't change the tone of the cymbal. It doesn't do anything of that. It just changes the lathing line and the way it looks. All right, so be aware of that. All right, you're not necessarily going to get a totally professional look if you're using a big cymbal or a thin cymbal, and you're putting pressure on it. And depending on how fast you're going, the faster you go, the more chattering you're going to get. That's why you're trying to control your speed. And so as the cymbal is moving, especially a warp cymbal of some kind, sometimes I'll buy cracked cymbals. An 18-inch, it's got a crack in it, 1 inch, right? So I'm taking off basically 2 inches of cymbal, right? 1 inch on each side. And so it comes down to a 16-inch. Now what do I do with it? Then I put it on the lathe and I turn it into a crash. You know, or a hi-hat. If it's a 16-inch and I can turn it into a high top or bottom if it's heavy enough, just by taking material off. Right? Now when you take material off, also be aware, the more material you take off, you lower the pitch of the cymbal. Right? Thinner cymbal, lower pitch; thicker cymbal, higher pitch. That's just the nature of metal, right? Or just about any material. The more dense wood you have, if you cut firewood, I do it all the time. I'll take a mallet and go hit all the logs, and you can hear all the different sounds. They're all the same. They're all the same length, but they're different diameters, and some of the wood is just more dense than other species, and so you get a higher pitch. It's the same thing with metal. So as you're doing this, be aware. You don't just change the character of the cymbal. You change the pitch of the cymbal as well. All right. Just want to make sure you're aware of that. So there you go. A couple of tips on that I wanted you to be aware of. I think in the third video I'm going to take that Myra that I got, which is new, and I'm going to put some lathing lines on that and change the character of the sound on that. All right, thank you.